Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Jarvis, and we have another EDH deck tech for you this week. This week we are doing Drivnod Carnage Dominus, but before we get into it, I just want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe. Also go and follow me on my other socials by following the link tree in the description below, and you can also join my Discord by doing the same, and the link to the deck will also be in that description. But let's get into it. Drivnod Carnage Dominus is a 3 black legendary creature Phyrexian horror that if a creature dying causes the triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It also has an activated ability for 2 black Phyrexian mana to exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard and put an indestructible counter on it. And it's an 8/3, so it has a lot of power. So this deck builds very similarly to Taste of Karlov, where you want things that have a lot of death triggers to go and double up on them, and it does have a little bit of an aristocratic feel to it. So we're just going to care all about those death triggers. Agent of the Iron Throne is 2 and a black. That commander creatures you own have, whenever an artifact or creature control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. This is a background enchantment, meaning your commander does have to be on the battlefield for it to do anything, and this deck centers around our commander, so we really don't care about that. So, whenever artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard, a creature going to your graveyard is the same as dying. If it doesn't go to your graveyard, it doesn't die. Bastard of Remembrance is 2 and a black. Enchantment, when it enters, you get a 1/1. And then whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Black Market, 3 black. Whenever a creature dies, it gets a charge counter. With Drivness, it gets 2 charge counters. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add a single black mana to your mana pool for each charge counter on it. Blood Artist is 1 and a black. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Butcher Malakir is 5 black. Flying, whenever it or another creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. So make each opponent sacrifice 2. Dictative Erebos does the same thing as Butcher of Malakir, except it's an enchantment and it has flash. Falconwrath Noble, 3 and a black, flying. Whenever it or another creature dies, the target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So a more expensive Blood Artist, but still really good. Grim Haruspex is 2 and a black, has morph for a single black, meaning that you can pay 3 mana to put it face down, and that at any time you turn it face up for a single black. Really, there's no reason to do that, because you're really playing it for the whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. Junji, the Midnight Sky, is 3 black, flying menace, that when it dies, choose 1. Each opponent discards 2 cards and loses 2 life. Or you get to put a target non-dragon creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and you lose 2 life. So doubling up on either one of those is very good. Kinzu of the Bleak Coven, 4 and a black. Flying, whenever another non-token creature control dies, you may pay 2 life and exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1 and has Toxic 1. So our flying creatures, that's very good to do with because they have natural evasion built in. Kinzu's in here more because when I build these decks that center around commanders from new sets, I like putting some of the new cards from the new sets in the deck as well. Kokusho, the Evening Star, 4 black. Flying, whenever it dies, each opponent loses 5 life, and you gain life equal to the amount of life lost this way. So, each opponent loses 10, you gain 60. You gain 30. Seems really good. Liliana Dreadhorde General, 4 black, Planeswalker, that whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card. You could +1 her to go and create a 2/2 black creature zombie, -4 to make everybody sacrifice 2. And then if you get there, -9 to make each opponent choose a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifice the rest. Massacre Worm, 3 black. When it enters, all of your opponent's up creatures get -2/2. And then whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, that player loses 2 life. Midnight Reaper, 2 and a black. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. You never want to go and reanimate this with Kinzu because you really don't want to go and keep getting that damage. Pitiless Plunder, 3 and a black. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token with what treasures do. And it's a 1/4. Revel in Riches, 4 and a black, acts as an alternate win con that whenever a creature to put a control dies, you get a treasure. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. Sanguinary Priest, 3 and a black, lifelink, and whenever another creature you control dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Skull Clamp, single generic mana. Equipped creature gets +1/-1, and whenever equipped creature dies, you draw 2 cards. Sir Conrad the Grim, 3 black, whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad deals 1 damage to each opponent, and then for 1 and a black, each player mills a card. This is my favorite card in all of Commander. The Meat Hook Massacre. It's X and 2 black, and when it enters the battlefield, all creatures get -X/-X. So it's a board wipe, but it's a board wipe that also goes and gives you death triggers that whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. And whenever a creature an opponent control dies, you gain 1 life. Vat of Rebirth is a single black. Whenever another artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on Vat of Rebirth. So you get to put 2 oil counters on it, which where that gets really good is that you only need 2 creatures to die for the next ability, where it's at 2 and a black. You remove 4 oil counters from it, and return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. You can only activate it as a sorcery, though. Vindictive Lich, 3 and a black. When it dies, choose 1 or more. Each mode must target a different player. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Target opponent loses 5 life. Vindictive Vampire, 3 and a black. Whenever another creature you control dies, Vindictive Vampire deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. Yahenni Undying Partisan, 2 and a black, haste. Whenever a creature to put a control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Yahenni. You can sacrifice another creature, and Yahenni gains indestructible until end of turn. Zolport Cutthroat, 1 and a black. When it or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Then we're into our card advantage. Card advantage is anything that gets you more cards or gives you the ability to manipulate the cards you see. So scrying, getting cards back from the graveyard, and just good old-fashioned card draw. Academy's Awakening is X black. Sorcery, return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different mana value, X or less. In our deck, you can go all the way up to 6, I believe, is the highest, maybe 7. But that could be 6 or 7 creatures you get back. Agadim the Undercrypt is its backside, which is the land that you could go and pay 3 life to come in untapped, and taps for black mana. Black Sun's Twilight is X and a black. This acts as a removal spell and a reanimation spell. Up to 1 target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, but if X is 5 or more, you get to go and return a creature with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And it's an instant speed, which is really nice. So you can do this on any of your opponent's turns and get one of your creatures back. Pulse's Citadel is 3 black, one of the strongest black cards of all time. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. If you cast a spell, you pay life equal to the mana value of that spell. And then for tapping it and sacrificing 10 non-land permanents, each opponent loses 10 life. Deadly Dispute, 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast this, you have to sacrifice a creature or artifact, and then you draw 2 cards and create a treasure. Phyrexian Arena, 1 black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Shieldred Whispering 1, 5 black, Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. Victimize is 2 and a black. You choose 2 target creature cards in your graveyard. You sacrifice the creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. This one is a little bit weird on the card advantage side because you really are exchanging 2 cards for 2 cards, but you could also be sacrificing a token for 2 cards, and you're most likely getting 2 really good cards back for a creature you really didn't care about. Village Rites is a single black. As an additional cost to cast it, you have to sacrifice a creature. You draw 2 cards. Phyrexia is a single black. Sacrifice a creature and scry 1. Vraska Betrayal Sting is a 4 black Phyrexian black. Completed, so if you pay the Phyrexian cost, it enters with 2 fewer loyal counters when it normally enters with 6. Its 0 ability is to draw a card and lose 1 life. Then you proliferate. Its -2 is actually a really good pseudo removal spell. Target creature becomes a treasure artifact. With tap this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and loses all other card types and abilities. You saw this with Oko and creatures or artifacts becoming food. This makes creatures treasures instead, and it costs more than Oko, so it's a little bit more balanced. It's -9, which we really don't care about in this deck, but it's still really good, is if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So, if they have fewer than 9, they get 9, and then if she's still alive, you just proliferate. Woe Strider is 2 and a black, horror. When it enters, you create a 0/1 goat, and then you can sacrifice another creature and scry 1. It also has an escape for 3 and 2 black. Yawgmoth Thran Physician at 2 and 2 black. Protection from humans, pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. And for 2 black and discarding a card, you can proliferate. Then we have our interaction and good stuff cards. The ones that really didn't fit into any other categories that we had, but are still really good. Ashnod's Altar, 3 generic. Sacrifice a creature, get 2 colorless. Just a nice sack outlet. Iara First of Locthwain, 3 black. When it enters or another black creature enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Leans into that aristocratic feel of the deck. And then you can tap it, sacrifice another black creature, and then draw a card. Bitter Blossom, 1 and a black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and put a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Black Market Connections, 2 and a black. One of the best black cards that has come out in recent memory. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, choose 1 or more. Either get to create a treasure token and lose 1 life, draw a card and lose 2 life, or create a 3/2 shapeshifter creature token with changeling and lose 3 life. Carrion Feeder is a single black. It's just a really cheap sack outlet. It can't block, and you can sacrifice the creature and put a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. Damnation, a 2 and 2 black. Destroy all creatures, and they can't be regenerated. Deadly Rock, 3 and a black. It's the free spell from that cycle of free commander spells. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost and exile a target creature. Gary, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, 3 and 2 black. When it enters, you get to go and gain life equal to the amount of. You get to go and have your opponents lose life equal to the amount of devotion to black, and you gain life equal to the amount of life lost this way. Haggard Maulin is 2 and 2 black. Costs 1 less if an opponent controls no basic lands. Destroy target creature. Its backside is just a land called Haggard Brood Pit. Infernal Grasp is 1 and a black. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. Lightning Greaves. Living Death is 3 and 2 black. Each player exiles all creature cards from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures he or she controls, then puts all cards he or she exiled this way onto the battlefield. So, all your creatures from the battlefield go to your graveyard. All the creatures from your graveyard go to the battlefield. Massacre Girl is 3 and 2 black. Menace, when it enters the battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn, making it that typically the board is wiped with only Massacre Girl left remaining. Reanimate is a single black. To put target creature card from a graveyard into play under your control, you lose life equal to that creature's converted mana cost. Saw in Half is a fun card. It's 2 and a black. You destroy target creature, but then if that creature dies this way, its controller creates 2 tokens that are copies of that creature. except their base power is half that creature's power, and their base toughness is half that creature's toughness. You round up each time. So for us, targeting Massacre Worm or Gary gives tons of extra value. Sheoldred's Edict is 1 and a black. Choose one. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Each opponent sacrifices a creature token, or each opponent sacrifices a planeswalker. Swiftfoot Boots. Toxic Deluge is 2 and a black. At an additional cost to cast Toxic Deluge, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. And then we have our ramp. We all love to ramp, and we're going to ramp using mostly artifacts. Arcane Signet, Bantu's Monument, 3 generic. Black creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Commander Sphere, Dark Ritual is a single black to give you 3 black. Belwar Stone, Jet Medallion to make all your black spells cost 1 less. Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth, is 4 and 3 Phyrexian black. Has lifelink, and all your black mana and spells can be use Phyrexian mana, essentially. Because for each black, you may pay 2 life rather than pay the mana. But whenever you cast a black spell, Kirik gets a +1/+1 counter and lifelink. Mind Stone, Soul Ring, and finally, Solemn Simulacrum, which everyone knows what Sad Robot does. But finally, this is the deck. What changes would you make? What cards did you like that I put in there? What cards didn't you like? Until next week, everyone, have a great day. See you.